question was, do elephants get colds, as in sort of like the sniffles, a flu? Wild animals, in my experience and from what I've read, don't get sick the way that captive bred animals get sick. So to put that in perspective, I know of lions in captivity that have gotten cancer. I've not heard of lions getting cancer sort of in the wilderness areas. I'm sure there might be one or two cases, but basically they're getting everything they need from where they are, and if they are getting sick in any way, then nature's taking its course. They're either going to get better very quickly, or they're going to get eaten by something and pass away. So a cold, no, not as far as I know, but I would be interested to know if in captivity anything like that happens, because captivity means they can't move their bodies properly. They're not getting the types of nutrients that they would get out here. They're getting a very fixed diet. It might be slightly varied, but it's not the best scenario for a wild animal, and so that's when you tend to see a bit more issues. I actually know of a female elephant that got severely depressed and ended up dying from her depression because she refused to eat. In the Joburg Zoo, she was rescued and she was put into the enclosure with other females elephants, and the other females didn't like her and would beat her up. And so she used to just stand in the corner and she would refuse to eat and refuse to do anything, and she would just look sad, and eventually she ended up dying from it. Sorry, that was a little bit of a downer on the discussion there, but it's a very good discussion to have. Animals in their natural habitats as opposed to animals in places like zoos.
You say that we get sick because we are in captivity.
Yeah. So Ferg's asking me, do I think that we get sick because we're in captivity? And I'm saying yes to him. I think that if we were to maneuver the way that we should maneuver as humans and not be in such closed spaces and not be indoors all the time, we wouldn't get as sick as we do. So my friend Scotty D is out and about on the property with me, and I think it's time we head on over to him so that he can say hello.
Hello everyone, I'm sure you've been having a wonderful safari with all the girls, and now you have to deal with me. My name's Scott, and I'm teamed up with Dave on a camera. We are hoping that we are going to find a male leopard. The reason being is that there was tracks not too far from where we are here, heading in this direction, and it could be one of 4 males, which is really interesting. We've got a kind of quite a strange scenario going on here at the moment, in that there's 2 mature males, one of which is the regular dominant male called Tingana, and another new kind of imposter called the Hukumuri male. So those 2 are kind of, we think, we've never seen any interactions, but we're fairly certain that they are kind of sizing one another up, and Hukumuri is pushing into Tingana's territory, and that's the area we're in here. And there's also 2 younger males, one's 2 and one's 3, called Hosanna and Tamba, and they're kind of just flying below the radar for now, so they're not really a threat to the bigger males. And all 4 of them, like I say, have been seen in this general area over the last few weeks and months. So it's tracks of a male, and we would love to find out who it is. I know a lot of you have yet to see the Hukumuri male, so ideally it would be him, although I would like to see Hosanna, who's one of the youngsters. We're not too certain how fresh the tracks are exactly. They could be from last night or could be from during the day. Difficult to be certain, but they are quite fresh. So we're going to snoop around here. We've got 2 tracking vehicles out also searching, and hopefully something will give a little bit later on once it cools off a little bit. Wonderful stuff. We're going to send you back up to Jamie, who's found some giraffe in the Mara.
I have got a giraffe, and a giraffe very close to where we had the lions this morning, so I'm just looking to see while we sit here whether or not there's any sign of them. This is definitely one of my favorite spots though. We've been talking about how Malika's been moving about to and from through this particular river. It's a very deep river, and it comes with certain complications when it does rain, but of course for animals browsers like the giraffe, it is a great place for them to gather and enjoy some slightly different leaves for their lunch. Obviously different species of trees that you'll find around the rivers. We often see the giraffes giraffes out in the open plains, browsing off the small little shrubs and bushes around there. It's nice to see them in such a beautiful setting. There's a couple of species, or there's one species of jackalberry, but I can't remember what it's called. It's not a jackalberry. It's a different species, same family. That one that occurs around this river. Now I can't remember what it's called. Oh goodness. It'll come back to me, I'm sure, at some point. A really pretty gathering of a giraffe, complete with their long tails. Steve says that giraffe are one of his favorites. You are not alone, Steve. Most people find them really quite attractive, and I think there's a certain sense of peacefulness that they convey somehow. There's something just relaxing about sitting and watching a giraffe. Everything about them, from their long eyelashes and their silly tongues to their very long legs, which have completely the normal number of joints, but somehow seem to have extra joints just while you look at them. I always find that the longer I stare at a giraffe, the weirder it becomes. It's like repeatedly saying a word, and it starts to sound very, very odd, like the word potato. Staring at a giraffe makes you very aware of what strange creatures they actually are. But you're not alone. Lots of people love them. My mom loves them. They're hard not to love. They're very gentle. Not dangerous at all. It's an interesting question, Paul, and you know, the thoughts crossed my mind a few times, although let me just, before I go on to Paul's question, let me just clarify that giraffe can be dangerous. It's just very, very unlikely. They're very unaggressive animals, but they can potentially be dangerous to people, but in very limited circumstances. Right, Paul, do giraffe ever have to worry about mambas or other snakes, particularly mambas, of course, would be a snake, very venomous snake that would be in the trees, as well as a vine snake or a boomslang, for example. Do they have to worry about being bitten by one when they feed in the trees? And the answer is, I have never heard of a giraffe being bitten while browsing. I think the snake just instinctively moves off as the movement approaches. So I've never heard of it happening. That doesn't mean that it hasn't happened before. It's probably incredibly unusual, and you'll probably find that they are actually no, probably not. Maybe not really resistant to the venom at all. There's certain species of animal out here that are resistant to snake venoms, like mongoose or honey badger. That's a good question. I don't know. I've never even seen a giraffe get a fright from a snake. Okay, let us head back across to Scotty D in South Africa, who is in a vehicle for a change, and he's managed to find some elephants walking towards him.
Hello everyone. We've got a nice big elephant bull who I've just noticed is in must. He's dripping like a broken tap from his penis, so he could give us a little bit of trouble. Only time will tell. What's interesting is that his trunk, I've just noticed, is kind of split. It's got an unusual split in it, and who knows how he would have got that injury at the tip of his trunk. It can open far wider than it ordinarily would, and as he walks past you'll notice that in between his back legs he is dripping wet, and that is a sign of an elephant bull in a sexually heightened phase called must. And they can often be quite mischievous when they are in this stage, which they kind of come into every year, once or twice a year, for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. No set kind of time limits on it. Oh, let's turn around quickly. There's a rainbow. We're going to test Dave's skills now. And that Ellie bull is heading straight towards a rainbow. Dave he's going to have to expose for it somehow. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get the elephant and the rainbow in. And if you darken the foreground completely, there we go. Beautiful. Sheesh, and now that we've parked where he was walking and the wind is... Which way is the wind blowing? I'm not even sure if the wind's assisting us, but we can definitely smell. It's kind of like a wet blanket almost. A sweet, sugary, wet, mouldy blanket is what that dripping, musty smell smells like. And we did have a few little raindrops earlier, not anything serious, which is a pity because we definitely do need a lot more rain here. We haven't had nearly enough rain this summer. What we probably also need is for me to catch back up with that elephant. No further sign of the leopard that we are trying to track down. I'm thinking of going back into the area where we last had his tracks and just really spending a lot of time scouring the earth to work out where exactly he headed. Tyrone, you'd like to know, do snakes ever have kind of interactions with snakes, and if so, are they kind of negative interactions? Well, not that I've ever seen, but I'm fairly confident that if a big elephant bull like this, or any elephants really, came across a large African rock python or a snake that was easy for them to detect, they may get a little bit disturbed by it. But I can't recall ever seeing any interactions between elephants and snakes myself in the flesh, nor any videos thereof, but it might be worth having a Google or a YouTube search there and see if you can't find anything. I haven't heard of anything. You'll probably find that they're not going to be hugely perturbed by the smaller ones. They'll probably overlook them quite a bit. You wonder how many times an unsuspecting arboreal snake like a boomslang has been gripped by an elephant's trunk and plucked out of a tree. Who knows, maybe a snake's even been put into the mouth of an elephant. I'm sure it must have happened. Elephant walks up to a bush, breaks off a branch, and next thing you know, the poor snake's in its mouth. Now, this elephant bull's behavior is a very good example that they're not always menacing and dangerous when they are in the sexually heightened phase called must. There's just a kind of a higher likelihood that they are going to give you trouble. So you mustn't always just flee and panic. You must just kind of be more alert when you do notice they are in must. And that word is derived from an Indian word, which means mischievous. And that's obviously from the Indian elephants. Wonderful. Well, we're going to send you from one of Africa's largest beasts to one of its kind of second or third largest, with Noel.
Second or third largest? I think I'd agree with you there, Scott. If we lump in black rhino and white rhino together, even though they're different sizes, I think we could say that elephant, rhino, and then hippo. Because giraffes are large. Well, they're tall, but their bodies aren't really large. I'll go with you on that, Scott. We'll go with third. Now, hippos, who have now disappeared, of course, because they love to do that, and we are sitting here in front of Chitwa Lodge at Chitwa Dam, and they have several hippos inside of here. I think at one point I counted about 15. Today I'm counting about 10, but I also can't see around the corner. And because they spend most of their time in the water, even on colder days like today and when it's overcast, they are very adaptable to hiding underneath, seeing underneath, communicating underneath the water, but also being able to communicate above the water and seeing above the water and hearing above the water as well. We've got a lot of good birds calling here as well. White-faced whistling ducks in the background. A few thickneys, some bee eaters. There's the white-faced whistling ducks. Kate, you'd like to know if hippos are really dangerous. Kate, anything's dangerous. An impala can be dangerous if you corner them. Anything can be dangerous. It just depends on the circumstance in which you find it. So that being said, hippos are dangerous when you interfere between them and their safe space, meaning between them and the water. So a lot of what happens with hippos and humans has to do with when hippos are moving into or out of the water and when humans are utilizing those same water sources. So if you're in a rural area and you need to fetch water for washing, for bathing, for drinking, and you're doing so out of a river, hippos live inside of there. And if you're between that hippo and the water, let's say that hippo, it's earlier in the morning and the hippo's coming back from grazing outside the water in the evening, then his reaction is going to be to run you over to get to the water. Other options have to do with if you're fishing in an area where hippos are and you come into an area with territorial bulls or territorial cows and you upset them, you invade their space bubble, they're going to be upset with that. So yes, they can be dangerous. They are the mammal that kills the most humans in Africa, but that statistic you have to take with the other facts that revolve around it. So where are humans utilizing the water sources, and where are the hippos, where are they feeding, where are they moving? We've got one coming out of the water beautifully, so you can see a little bit better their sort of shape and size. H. Macy, you'd like to know if hippos are going to stay in the same water hole their whole lives? It can happen, H. Macy. This hippo is demarcating. Can you see that? Can you see all of that, what looks like mud flying out the back end? That's poo, and it's then wagging its tail and spreading that poo very, very fine, so that it spreads everywhere, so that every other hippo knows that's that hippo's territory. Look, they can, if, for instance, a lot of the hippos that are born here inside of Chitwa Dam, especially if they're female hippos, they won't necessarily need to go anywhere else. This dam is pretty much always full. Let's say, though, that this dam went dry, then all the hippos would move somewhere else. The same happens with river. Oh, look, there he's doing it. I love it. I've got a story to tell you guys just now as well. It'll come in a little bit. But so no, they're not going to necessarily stay in the same water hole the whole time. They will move around. In the Okavango Delta, they move around often and a lot, depending on the levels of the water. And islands form and reform. So we just saw that hippo demarcating, spreading its dung everywhere, and there's a lovely story about why hippos do that. So there are many traditional stories in Africa, but specifically we're going to talk about one that I've heard from this area. So hippo was a creature that used to live on land. And hippo was an arrogant creature. He had a big mane. He thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. And so Hippo was not liked very much by the other creatures because he was arrogant. And, you know, as you can tell, the moral of the story is try not to be arrogant. That's one of the morals. So one day there was a big fire and Hippo went, I'm out of here. And he ran away, but as he was running away, all the other creatures were going, help me, help me, help me, there's a fire. So Hippo was like, oh, I guess I'm not really that bad of a creature. Let me go and help. So he ran in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out of the water to be able to help and save those creatures. And when he did so, his skin got cracked, his mane was burned off, he was in a lot of pain. And his gift for saving all the creatures was for the Creator to allow him to live in the water and then only come out at night so that the sun wouldn't burn his cracked skin. Then there was another story to go along with that. It's that after Hippo was now living in the water, he was having trouble because he was having trouble accessing a lot of the grass that he needed to eat, and he didn't want to interfere with rhino and this and that, and also he was having some trouble with crocodile. So the Creator was saying, listen, if you're having all these troubles again with all these creatures, then you need to figure out something. So Hippo was like, well, I just really want to stay in the water full time. And the Creator's like, listen, you're having issues with crocodile, you're having issues with rhino, I don't really know what to tell you. So long discussions and long stories happen. And finally they agreed, no, Hippo, you can keep staying in the water. You must only come out at night. But I need to make sure that you are not eating crocodile's fish, as crocodile is saying, and you're not interfering with rhino. So by grazing at night, he's not interfering with rhino too much, and then he would go and spread his dung very, very fine, so the creator could see that he's also not interfering with crocodile by eating his fish, because there is no fish bones in his dung. So there's many different variations on that story, on those two stories. Some of them combined, some of them separate, but it's a way to explain behavior without science, and I also just enjoy them very much, as I hope all of you do. So Scott is still with a very large pachyderm, so I think let's head on over to him, and maybe he has a story about elephant.
Well, thanks Noel for the stories. Sounded wonderful. We've been chilling out with this Ellie bull, who's obviously found a marula tree that's bearing some tasty fruits, because he's been here for about 5 minutes, and obviously once he finished all the fruits on the ground, he lifted up his trunk, put his head against the tree and gave it an almighty shake, and a whole bunch more fruits just came falling down, and that's what he's feeding on now. And what I've noticed is that different trees bear different size fruits as well as different tasting fruits. Some are far tastier than others, and he's obviously found a good one here. The one in the middle of our camp has by far got the biggest fruits of all the trees here on Djuma, almost 2 or 3 times the size. Sadly no Ellies have got access to those ones, but we do. I think Gendre is brewing some kind of a fizzy juice. I'm thinking of making some marmalade. Monica, you would like to know, what does a marula fruit taste like? And it's quite acidic. It's very high in vitamin C. So let's see if he doesn't give us a little bit of attitude. He's got a bit of a swagger here. Hello, boy. What are you plotting? Are you just heading off to the next marula tree? It looks like it. You've always got to just be a little bit cautious of these guys when they're in must. Can you see how he's got a bit more of a swagger than normal? And a telltale sign of a bull in must. Getting that sweet pungent smell again as he moves past from his dripping penis, which is another sign of them being in must. So the taste of a marula fruit. Kind of like a lychee maybe, but there's not as much flesh on the fruits. Kind of similar texture to a lychee, but it's only a very thin layer of flesh around a hard nut. And the flavor, Dave, any ideas what you could... It's such a tricky one. Yeah, you'd one down yourself, I think, and then you'll know. It tastes nothing like the liqueur that is made by it. Now, Kirsty's suggesting that I should have one and talk you through it, but I've had a million marula fruits and I'm still unable of talking you through it now. So if I have another one, it's not gonna provide me with the vocabulary that I need to describe it. Yeah, what I can say though is that it tastes nothing like marula, a liqueur that is made from these fruits. Very nice liqueur though. I would suggest trying some, but it would give you the wrong idea of what the fruits taste like. Wonderful stuff. We're going to probably spend some more time with this big bull. It looks like he's moved on to the next marula tree and he's busy snacking down here, and send you off to one of the girls while I do that.
We've had a little altercation between hippos. That hippo has gone under or on top of that island that is underneath the water after chasing another one, and we'll see, maybe he chases him again. A much larger male, this one that stood up here, as opposed to the one that was at the back. Can we hear them? It's very windy. It's really hard for us to pick up on the audio of the hippo. They're making a funny laughing noise that I'm not very good at repeating, but it looks like everything's calmed down. Now Ferg and I have found a bird as well that we thoroughly enjoy. So Ferg and I, about a month ago, had this bird fishing on the other side of the dam. And then Davi and I had him doing this funny twerking thing. Oh my goodness, now Ferg, I don't know where to go. Okay, we have hippos moving about, but we also have this greater egret that's fishing and hunting. So it's difficult because it's just enough of an angle that we're gonna miss. Ah, he caught something. You see? So this is the perils of wildlife filming and coming to you live, is picking content that's within 100 meters, 100 yards of each other. Okay, so those hippos have calmed down. Maybe we'll go back to our greater egret, because I don't think he actually caught what I thought he caught. I think he's going to try again. And here comes the rain, of course. What an afternoon. This is just a crazy afternoon. So there's our greater egret. Busy fishing in the shallows. And out of nowhere, we have this rain that's starting to come down. It's not a heavy rain, but sorry, that's Ferg just putting the cover on. Come on, greater egret. Catch something, and then we're going to pan over to the hippos, and they're going to fight again. So this is what... Ooh! Almost got something there. So this is what we deal with on a sort of daily basis. Look, it happens as well when you're on game drive, if you were physically in the car with us, but then obviously you have a 360-degree motion around. For us, Ferg has to be able to move 300... Ooh! Yes, he's really trying. Might be minnows, might be frogs in there. And so we have to, almost there. He's almost getting it. So we really have to pick and choose what views we want to give you. Maybe it's tiny little minnows if he's getting small things in there. Let's see, he's going to go for it again. And then we have to we have to pick and choose, and then hope that what happens when we want it to happen happens. Interesting thought to put out there. I'm sure many of you who watch us time after time and segment after segment realize this, but you know, having all of this action in a small little space when it's not sort of one thing in front of the other thing that's doing something can be tricky for us. So it's nice to do a bit of birds and then a bit of mammals and a bit of birds, a bit of mammals. Come on, buddy. Oh, look, that was a false start there. You see that? He's trying really hard. A much different hunter than some of our other larger water birds you'll get here, like a spoonbill or an African openbill. Ooh, so you guys are saying that you can see that it looks like a fish, so I think we're going to go with little minnows then, as opposed to tadpoles or anything similar. Ferg, I feel like we're about to have a deluge. Shall we show everybody the deluge that is about to hit us? So guys, here we're sitting, we're going to pan up for you and around, and we have a cloud that's decided to drop. So sometimes as the clouds are picking up moisture, the wind pushes them past, they don't drop on us, but that is going to definitely drop on us. So I think we're going to need to get our canvas covers out. So let's head back up to the Mara, where Jamie has some beautiful cats she would like to show you, and Ferg and I are going to cover ourselves, I think, or move away.
Shame. I'm glad to hear that Djuma is getting some rain, though. They really did need it. And so far, we've actually been really lucky with the weather. Yes, it's rained a couple of times while we've been this side, but it hasn't been anything near the amounts we were experiencing up until recently. There's a little bit of rain on the horizon, but we are so practiced now at wrapping up that we can basically do it and still watch the animals at the same time. We've got everything into a pretty flawless, very efficient system of putting our rain covers down. So there is some rain on the way, but hopefully it decides to miss us, and if it doesn't, it's not too much of a disaster. It was a little while ago, when Malika was on the other side of the river. That was problematic, and I kept watching the skies every time I left her, nervous that it was going to be the last time I was going to be able to actually even get to her. Though we've been lucky so far. And although there was a very wet January, which of course is meant to be the dry season, it seems as though we're having quite a dry Feb. And then, soon to come will be the big rains, and that will be interesting all of its own. I love the cheetah tail draped over Mum. That's so sweet. Don't mind me. I'm just going to plop my tail over you. Surprisingly heavy, that tail, as a counterbalance. Ah, Mandy, you want to know if cheetah like the rain? No, not really. They do hunt in the rain, though. It is really good hunting weather for them, provided it is not an absolute downpour, as in it's not actually stinging rain, which I've seen them shelter from. If it does start to rain, they do actually hunt. So they do actually, it's good hunting weather. Sorry, somebody just wants to talk to me, but I'll chat to them in a second. It is good hunting weather, and at the same time, it is, if it rains at night, quite disorienting for them, and it does mean that it could put them at risk of other bigger predators. So at night, if it does rain, then they bunker down and they hide away and they wait for it to stop. We've also seen Malika's boys, as I mentioned earlier, really enjoying chasing and playing in the ripples and the currents of the puddles. Malika actually really takes full advantage of rainy weather. She will go dashing off after any potential prey. There's a little Tommy up ahead. Can you see it there? I don't think she's going to hunt, though. I think that hyena that's been lurking around her, there's a hyena that's coming and going, watching her the whole time. There's a little Tommy. Not quite aware of where it's about to, what it's about to wander into. But they have exceptionally sharp eyes, and I doubt that this one's going to get caught unawares. Okay, from a relatively dry Mara, let us go and rejoin the Djuma crew, hopefully now wrapped up tight against the rain, as Scott Dyson leads on the search for the leopards.
Well, thankfully not rainy where we are, but out to the east where Noel is, you can see a lot of dark clouds, and she's getting some rain over there. So it'll be interesting if that rain comes to us. Usually rain comes from the north to the south, but of course there are always some variations with regards to how the weather works. Sorry, I've just got some little bug in my eye, which I'm trying to get out. So yeah, usually the rain comes this way, not this way. But maybe this afternoon will be different, and we'll take whatever rain we can get. Obviously it's not ideal for this afternoon safari because it makes our lives a bit of a nightmare, but it is much needed in this area. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware, but I must just say a big thanks to Megs, who was directing the first half of the safari from the Mara. It is her final drive directing. She is heading back to continue her studies. I'm told you're becoming a doctor of sorts. And interestingly, I've never actually met Megs. When I rejoined Safari Live and went straight to the Mara, she was here, and then when I came here, she went there. So, never met Megs, but heard your voice a lot, and it's a very nice voice, and you're a great director, so hopefully we'll see you in the future. And good luck with all of your studies. Maybe you can pop in and visit us, then I'll finally get to meet you. So I'm kind of heading back towards camp, because I don't know the extent of this rain that is coming towards us, and we don't really have a, in case if it is hectic, we could come unstuck, and with the final TV show tomorrow, I will not be very popular if I fry some of the equipment. So I just want to get us as close to camp as possible. Now, I could be imagining things, but I think I can see an Angama lizard glowing blue on the big tree over there. just below that, higher up. Okay, stop there. Maybe I should just use my binoculars. If you punch in, it's just like, it looks like it's about 30 centimeters below the forks. No, I was over ambitious. There's just some lichen on the tree. It would have been spot of the century, so that's why I went for it. And thanks to all of you that have just sent through some more wishes to Megs, and good luck with her future. Alrighty, well, it's just Noel and I now for the rest of the safari, I think, so that's the plan, and you are going to head across to her right now. She's found some elephants.
Scotty, you and I will be fine, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Yeah, I'm sorry. Alright, we're about to get rained on again, but we found a really nice young bull elephant that we want to show you. Well, maybe young's the wrong word. He's probably in his mid-30s, I would say. And he's busy eating up the lush green grass that's on the ground here. So in summertime, when it's our rainy season, elephants in our area tend to eat a lot more grass than they do during the winter season, because it's lush and green and full of nutrients. So about this time of year, they probably do about 15%, maybe a little bit more of their diet will be grass, and then the opposite time of the year will be less, maybe about 5 to 8%, if that. In places like the Okavango Delta in Botswana, where it's wet a lot longer, you'll see that their percentages of eating grass will go up a bit. Now, we have this funny little tiny tree that's in the way, and we keep thinking he's going to move, but he really is taking his sweet time about it, but that's okay. I'm enjoying watching him twirl up this grass. Now, notice when he's twirling to the left. That is something that is unique to each animal, similar to how we're left-handed or right-handed. They twirl their trunk to pick things off the ground, like the grass or branches off a tree, either the left way or the right way. And then with their tusk as well, they'll also have a left tusk or a right tusk that they prefer. Now this chap seems to have a right tusk that is slightly more worn down, which means that he is left trunked and right tusked. He can't decide, he can't make up his mind. Trish, excellent question. You want to know how you tell an elephant's age. So Trish, for me, with elephants and with a lot of the research I used to do, I find aging them easy. It has to do with how their head looks, their body, the way their skin sags, things like that. But it comes with time, and it comes with cataloging. I find it harder to age, say, a rhino. So an elephant lives to be about 60, 65 years old, and their bodies go through similar processes that human bodies do regarding how their skin looks on their frame, and sort of by the temples there, you can see it quite a bit. With a rhino, for me, I mean, a rhino reaches about 12, 15 years old, and then pretty much looks that same way for the next 30 years until it starts getting really old, and then you can say, well, that rhino's really old. But I have a friend that can age a rhino to within a year or two. It's pretty incredible. Hello, sir. Are you just realizing that we're here? Really? Ferg, I think our rain's catching up with us. Our rain cloud, our little drizzling rain cloud is slowly catching up with us. Now, this is the type of weather that this male elephant will really love because it cools things down, it makes his body slightly moist. He doesn't have to flap his ears as much. Now notice he's doing what our last bull elephant did that we saw at the beginning of the show, where he's holding his ears open a little bit more. It's because he's listening to me. He's listening to what I'm saying and just checking to make sure that I'm not doing anything that breaks our social contract, which is why he is so relaxed with us, because I'm just sitting here and chatting. And maybe he likes the timbre of my voice, but I actually think because this rain cloud is coming at greater speed, we might have to leave our elephant where he is and carry on up the cut line more towards the northeastern corner to sort of get away from the rain. Because the Mara has left us, we're going to pretend like we're in the Mara and move away from rain clouds. Melissa, you want to know what it's like when an elephant sneezes. Now, Melissa, I can't actually think of... Thank you, sir. Enjoy. can't actually think of the last time I heard an elephant sneeze. Lions, leopards, cheetah sneezing, yeah. Rhino sneezing. Elephant, I can't honestly think off the top of my head. We might have to ask Scott if he's ever heard of or ever heard an elephant sneeze. It's an interesting thing. I wonder if it's because their trunk is so long that maybe the things that make us sneeze with our smaller noses don't actually get up there. I've seen them blowing lots of mucus out their trunk. Interesting thought. And we moved 12 meters and the rain is gone. It's just how our day is going. Alright, so we're carrying on this way, obviously, to get away from that rain cloud, but then we're also going to check for whatever might be up this way and maybe head up towards Biffleshoek Dam and see if we can get any more elephants that side or possibly something else. I'm still really keen for wild dog. Tyro, you want to know how hectic the weather conditions are out here? Look, in general, Tyro, they're not that hectic. I mean, in the summer, it's quite warm, quite hot, and we get these funny rain showers. This season has been very strange. Normally, in the afternoon, it'll build up during the day, and in the afternoon, we get about an hour, hour and a half, and it'll just drop. We haven't had that this season. We haven't had enough rain this season. These clouds we could see forming, but it didn't look like they were actually going to drop low enough to lose their precipitation. That one just sort of snuck up on us, but the one that's behind us snuck up on us because of the way that the hillside goes, so I couldn't really see. The one that we're driving towards now already dropped in this general vicinity, not right where we are, but more a little bit to our east. And as we come up on top of the hill, you'll actually see that it's still dropping to the east, but the clouds are moving in an easterly direction, so we're not going to feel any of that. That we could see before we started, so Ferg and I decided not to come up to this corner in the beginning of show. We decided to go to Chitwa Dam, and then obviously we are now changing our minds and heading up, just to sort of keep away from it. And then our winter times are chilly at night and then somewhat warm during the day. I grew up in New England in the States, and I have to say those weather conditions were much more hectic than here. It's like snowing in July and then all of a sudden it's 100 degrees out. You know, maybe I'm just more used to it here, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. These clouds are really pretty though. I love this type of light. Ah, Scott's also looking at pretty clouds. Scott's a man after the same.
Yes, we are looking at some beautiful dark stormy clouds with the Warburg's eagle. Of the pale morphs, you can see it's a very light coloration. And we're actually hoping on initially showing you a bataleur, but it flew off. And I'm told on average when kind of eagles are soaring, they're soaring at around, I mean of course it varies hugely, but 50 miles an hour with ease, which is quite interesting. It's quite a speed to travel at, considering they're using very little or almost no energy. This one's heading into the wind, so it's not moving that quickly now, I can assure you of that. It's actually moving quite slowly. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be up there, soaring silently, with a wonderful view. We need a few of these guys on our payroll, searching for leopards. That would help us greatly. Wonderful. Now, looking around, this is usually looks quite serious. So there is a chance it will miss us, but there is also an equally strong chance that it will hit us. So I'm going to head back to camp and put on our roof so that we are ready for the worst. Cheryl, you'd like to know if the health is looking grassier, the grass is looking healthier. Yes, it is. It's looking far more lush and green after just one relatively small but decent rainfall. I'm guessing it was somewhere around 10 mils of rain that we got. And yes, the vegetation, not only the grass, but a lot of the bushes than they were before. When did that rain fall? About a week ago, I think. And within about 2 or 3 days, the bush had already responded to it. and it was much needed because it was looking fairly bleak. Everything was kind of limp and not looking very impressive just before that rain. But like I said a little bit earlier, it's not nearly enough rain, and even though it's looking better than it was, it's not nearly as lush as it should be at this time of the year. I remember summers where the quarantine clearings was kind of, which we're about to drive through now, was almost very, very thick, and some areas was about knee-high, whereas if you take a look at that now, it's not very well vegetated. So we do need more rain, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get some this evening, which will be wonderful. Ooh, I need to turn us around for another rainbow moment. It's looking very, very impressive. We've actually got a full rainbow, but it's definitely more impressive to the side that Dave is filming. That is the most visible. See if you can zoom out, Dave, and get the whole thing. I think we might be able to get the whole thing, both pots. Are you fully zoomed out?
Yep.
Oh no, the rainbow's too big for us to get all the way around, and it looks like it can't. See where the other pot lands there? That's in Buffelshoek, an area where we cannot drive around, is where the pot of gold is currently sitting. And the other pot of gold is to the south of us, also where we cannot go, so sadly we cannot gather either of the pots of gold from this rainbow today. But very beautiful nonetheless. It looks like there's also a double rainbow. Thanks, Kirst, I didn't even notice, but yeah, there is a bit of a double rainbow. There's a slightly less vibrant one higher up above the more prominent one. Fascinating. Okay, good. I don't want to get too waylaid though. I want to go and get the roof on before we get caught in a storm, and that way at least one of us will always be able to be out. Noel's quite far from here, I think, but either way, let me just make sure that we are safe and sound in the event that the storm does hit us, and then Noel will be able to race back and do the same thing and seek shelter. Good. We'll send you back to her to see how her storm escaping is coming along.
Thus far, Scotty, our storm escaping is coming along brilliantly. It's sunny. I can see the Drakensberg Mountains. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not raining where we are anymore. Although I can see why you chose back to put your roof on. I can see a tiny little bit of rain falling where you were. Now, when I get to, well, I should say we, because it's not just me on the car. Erg is here as well. When we get to them, I'm going to give everybody a sort of surround view, because you're going to be amazed at the discrepancies between where the rain is falling and where it is not. Now, that is one of the reasons why it's so trouble when we have seasons like this where we don't have regular rain, because it's very piecemeal all over the place. So just north of me where I and we have had not enough at all. Sorry, excuse the back of my head, it's a little bit bumpy here. Just need to pay attention. I don't want to hurt Wendy or lose Ferg or fall out the vehicle when we hit things. Now, although I don't want to be in the rain on show right now, I'm happy that it is raining. It's allowed to rain throughout the night, then it must stop at, let's say, 3:30 this coming morning, tomorrow morning, so that we can get ready and then get moving for show. And then if it stops at 3:30, and if it's a downpour and then stops at 3:30, all of the predators we're going to be looking for will move, and then we'll get fresh tracks and then hopefully find them. So I've got a really precise plan in place, and I'm hoping it works. Now, as we're driving along here through this very bumpy road, I'm seeing nice giraffe tracks. So I'm hoping when we get to Buffelshoek Dam, we have a journey of giraffe, or a tower, or a kaleidoscope, whichever collective noun floats your boat. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. And then we're going to get some really spectacular landscape views. Our cameras do such a nice work at zooming in that we show you guys a lot of up and close details. But it's also nice to pull back a bit, I think, and just show you the surrounds as well. Now, we've had a couple of rainbows, but Scotty D keeps beating us to our rainbow shot, so maybe we'll get some rainbows now to show you. I told Ferg earlier it's the places where puppies and unicorns live, so they're amazing. He looked at me like I was crazy, which might be true. Say one more time, Curse. So apparently Scotty D said that the rainbow is ending inside of Biffleshoek where we can't drive, and James Richard is saying he hopes that the end of that rainbow that's in Biffleshoek is not a leopard that we can't get to as the pot of gold. Well said, James. I agree. I concur. The rainbow can end here at Biffleshoek Dam. That'll be fine. There can be a leopard there, and there might be. You never know. I think Tristan was saying earlier today that some of the male leopard tracks we were getting up here might have been Kojima, who I haven't seen yet. That would be nice to see, but it looks like he's moved out again. And I have heard reports that Tumba has finished his kill that was down near our southwestern corner, and possibly he might come back. You never know. Hukumuri, I just like saying that. Hukumuri has gone west. He doesn't like us anymore. He's gone west towards Elephant Plains, from what I've heard. And then Tingana is busy, checking up on Tundi inside Little Gallery. And Hassana, as far as I know, is still in Little Gallery as well. Kachava, last I heard, was sort of in the southeastern corner of Chitwa, which is very difficult for us to get to. It's at the funny little bottom of a hill, and our signal has some problems there. I tried a little, but I don't think she's going to be there for much longer. She should be moving to her second den site shortly. Yeah, Ferg, we had Kachava, last week in December? She dropped her cubs shortly after that. So yeah, she should be moving den sites in about a week or so. And then hopefully she'll move her den site into the middle of Chitwa, and then we can view her, hopefully, wherever she happens to be there. Although, with all this different male leopard activity going on, who knows? She's probably doing exactly what Tundi is doing, which is trying to go to the outer resources of her core. Oh, James Richard, you also want to know what's happening with Shadow and Cub? James Richard, last I heard of Shadow and Cub, she was on Hoffman's, which is near Little Gallery, and I haven't heard much after that. I enjoy Shadow. I enjoy her very much. I also would like to see #not Barbara. I haven't seen her in a while. The last time I saw her, she was almost the same size as her mum. So I would be keen to know how much she has grown. Now, our journey of Giraffe did not make it to the dam. They might still be on their way, but we have our very cranky Hippo, who doesn't like the cars, and we have one female waterbuck who's standing there like, oh no, I've been caught out. And then we're going to turn the vehicle so that you guys can see all the different cloud formations that we've been chatting about along the way. Nick, you want to know if there's any melanistic crocodiles where we are? Nick, I have not heard of reptiles having leucism and melanism. As far as I know, leucism, which is a lack of pigmentation, and melanism, which is a overpigmentation, deals with mammal and bird species. I have a feeling that there might be some albinism that pops up with reptiles. I think I saw a thing about an albino snake the other day. But then with crocodiles, I haven't heard of it, if there's any albinism. All right, we have a beautiful array of different colors of gray and blue and white, all mixed in with different clouds that are coming through. How beautiful is that? I think maybe let's do our moment of silence with our cloud formations and the rain dropping behind them, which is not moving east anymore. It's turned around and it's moving towards us. absolutely stunning. Alright, well, because this massive storm is now moving towards us, Scott has put his roof on and he is out and about with some birds, so let's head on over to him, and Ferg and I will see if we can outrun this one or if we might also have to wussy out and put our roof on.
Yes, we do have our roof on. The rain is beginning to fall a little bit more steadily, and we found a little family of hornbills, and that one that you're looking at is a newborn fledgling. We could tell that because of its tiny little beak. The adult beaks are far bigger. Let me just drive forward a little bit. We should be able to get you some better views of them. It looked like there was 3 youngsters, and they do have 2 parents, a mother and a father. But they're kind of all disappearing into the thickets to try and escape the rain, cleverly. But there's one, kind of. Steadily harder, and even though we have the roof on, it blows in from the side, so we're going to have to cover up a few things quickly. Monitor. I fried one of these when I was up in the Mara, along with my cell phone. Can't remember what exactly we were following or doing that afternoon, but both little bits of technology got fried. Actually tempted to try and spend a little bit more time with these hornbills there. But they're fluttering in quite thick bushes. I'm hoping to try and see their parents come back to them, because you'll get a good idea of how much bigger the parents' beaks are than theirs. They're all kind of just playing around with one another for now. Locals, we're right outside the final control room here, and our staff gym. That's where the final control is, and the gym is just outside of it. And Jean-Andre, one of the cameramen, just snuck up on me and tried to. Where's he gone? We're gonna get you, Jean-Andre. You can try and hide, but we are gonna find you. Where's he hiding? I want to chase him out. Here he is. So here's Jean-Andre. He's quite big, so he was difficult to wrestle out, but he snuck up on me and tried to give me a prize. So I'm glad we just got that sorted out. Earlier on when we were driving back into camp, Jean-Andre gave me the fright of my life. As we came around the corner, he came jumping out of a bush. Took me about 3 seconds to respond and get a fright, but he did give me the fright of my life. What is he planning now? Jean... No. There he is. He's trying to hide behind the wheel, but I think we need to get out of here before he does something reckless. Him and... Is he holding onto the wheel now? Oh gosh. You see, the cameramen are definitely the most unstable members of our crew. You just can't predict what they're going to do. Dave and Jean, for now. So, Dave and Jean both have long hair. Dave's is usually cleaner than Jean's, but we've got this kind of, there's this kiddies game that somehow ended up in our camp, which is no surprise really, and it's a big Velcro pad that you throw a ball onto, and you just catch the ball as it hits this round Velcro pad. And Jean and Dave thought it's a good idea to wallop this Velcro pad onto one another's locks and then deal with trying to pull it off. So I'm surprised Jean didn't come out armed with that. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you guys got a glimpse of Jean, not hiding behind the camera. Let's just check my glasses are still working, because I may have... Okay. So, focus, back on track, we're back on safari. Carl's, you suggesting that we must have a blast at camp? Yes, we do. We certainly do. There is no shortage of good times and a lot of humor. We are very, very privileged with the crew of people that we get to live and work with in this amazing place. So yes, lots of fun is had. Lots of fun will be had tomorrow night. And for any of you who are unaware, the day after tomorrow there will be no morning safari. We're going to get to sleep in after this 5-night binge series of TV, which we are completing tomorrow. So that's just one thing that you guys can start planning if you didn't already know. Very good. Well, the rain seems to have subsided for the time being, which is great stuff, and Noelle has no longer needed to race back to camp just yet, and I'm not sure what she's found, but she would like you to hop on board with her.
Scott, I'm still a little bit nervous about the impending storm that's behind us, but it's moving at a much slower pace. We have a purple roller, which I have not been able to put on a camera yet this season for you. So we've done lilac-breasted roller, of course, as well as European roller. Now, purple rollers are with us all year round, but something that I found interesting from here compared to where I was working in the Northwest Province a couple of years ago is we used to see purple rollers a lot all year round, and this is my first one of 2018 and probably my first one in the last sort of 4 or 5 months. So it makes me wonder if maybe in the, I want to say in the drier areas we see them more, but they should be around here more often than we see them. It's just a side thought. All right, the viewers that have joined us on some of the other platforms, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you again on our next broadcast tomorrow afternoon on YouTube. And don't forget, tomorrow morning, it is going to be our last installment of our live TV show in the United States. Hashtag Safari Live on the YouTube. We will still be there as well. All right, our purple roller. So for any of you that are just starting your bird list or starting your 2018 bird list, or have maybe not been keeping up with your safari lifetime bird lists, maybe purple roller is a new one for you. Very similar to how our other rollers are. They eat insects. One of the reasons why I can say it's a purple roller is if you have a look at that tail, there's no streamers coming off. Lilac-breasted roller has more uniform as opposed to check multicolored as a lilac-breasted roller. And then of course our European roller has that blue and slight sort of cocky color, tawny color on the backside. Now when this bird flies, and when it flies in the light, the purple is very apparent. Right now he looks just sort of like a funny brownish, slightly purple color. K6, you want to know if a European roller is the same as a bee-eater. That is a big negative. A bee-eater is a bee-eater and a roller is a roller, but there is a European roller and there is a European bee-eater. Sometimes these names are very creative and sometimes they aren't. I am going to show you both so that we can all be on the same page, because I know 2 nights ago, I think it was, we had the European bee-eater, myself and Seb. I'm getting my little handy book out. All right, here we are. Here's my book. My trusty bird book that's falling apart. So this is a European bee-eater. Much smaller bird, much thinner beak. It catches insects in a different way and a much more brightly colored. All right, then I'm going to turn to a roller. Hold on one sec. And so this is how I find birds. I always go back to the back side of the book and look for them there. I have friends who have memorized the pages wherever all the birds are. My brain doesn't quite work like that. Okay, here's the European roller. You can see it's a much thicker beak, a little bit of a pecking part of the beak there. It catches more robust insects as opposed to something, well, it'll still catch butterflies, but it's able to catch things like dung beetles, which would be harder for a European bee eater. And notice it's a a light colored blue, and then that brown color. Now the broad-billed roller that's just down here in the corner, Kirst was just saying in my ear once before we've seen this on Djuma. It's not a bird that we would see often here, and if we did see it, you would hear me going, "Oh my goodness, it's a broad-billed roller! Look at it, take pictures!" Because it's not seen as often down here. And Kirst is saying that's exactly what Brent did. Well done, Brent, as you can see. Now, this is the purple roller that we're looking at now. This drawing does not, to me, do justice to the purple roller, but you can see here why it's called a purple roller. Now, one of the rollers that I go completely berserk for, we're going to come back up, which I have never seen here, and if we ever did see here, we would all be going, "Oh my goodness," is a racket-tailed roller. The only time I've ever seen a racket-tailed roller was when I was in Mozambique a couple of years ago on holiday, specifically trying to see it, and I took a whole week, couldn't find it, and then we were driving home, and there was like 4 sitting on a power line. And we were a car full of birders. We veered off the road and almost caused an accident and went, "Oh my goodness, look!" Everyone else thought we were crazy. We did the same thing the year before when we were down in St. Lucia in the southeastern part of South Africa, and there was palm net vultures on the side of the road. We also swerved off and almost caused an accident. And there was 2 vehicles that time, and we were all busy. We were all busy standing on the side of the road with our cameras and our binoculars. And we got some fists and some other movements I can't do on YouTube, obviously. And then you could see the birders that were also coming out St. Lucia. They were honking their horns, going, "Yeah!" Anyway, okay, onward and upward. Our storm is approaching slowly from behind. I feel like I'm in that movie Twister, but at a much slower pace. Fine from our very slow moving storm, so let's go over to him.
Yes, we are okay for now, and hoping to find a pair of hoopoes, African hoopoes. They're quite kind of not secretive but shy. They're difficult birds to get on camera, and they flew here somewhere. They're very, very pretty. Jared, if you're still in FC, I dedicate this hunt to you. Oh, there they are. They're on the big tall silver cluster leaf, Dave. About, yeah, halfway up. There we go. There they are. There we go, Jared. It's Jared's favorite bird. And how cool is that? Now, it's a great pleasure, Jared. I'm glad you are making this all possible for everyone on the whole globe to be sharing this moment with us. And at the moment it's got its crest down. They tend to flare it up as soon as they land, and then it creates a little bit of a pointy diamond shape on the back of its head. Nice long beak that they use for gobbling up insects. They do most of their feeding on the ground, and its partner's just up above, a little bit higher. There we go. Just taking it easy. I'm sure they're enjoying a little bit of moisture. It means they won't have to go to a waterhole to bath. It'll be really nice to show you that flew off to the right of them at kind of 10 or 11 o'clock. But it wasn't that one. It was one of those beautiful plum-colored starlings that we saw the other day, Dave. But it's, I think it's, oh no, it's up to the right there. It's kind of, oh, there, that one that just. Tricky business, these birds. Cameraman's nightmare. Especially when there's a lot of them flying around, because that can just confuse the matter. But I think there's definitely a feeling of joyfulness among a lot of the birds, even though it's not that the more it rains, the more insects will come out and the more food will be available to them. Looks like a fork-tailed drongo up there. And there's a few other birds flitzing around this quite large silver cluster leaf. Usually the trees don't get this specific tree doesn't get. nice one, Dave. That's the one I was hoping on showing you. That's their old name. They are now called violet-backed starlings. Marvelous stuff. So, our plans are to continue on towards where there was some leopard tracks seen a little bit earlier around the treehouse waterhole. So that's where we're slowly kind of making our way from here. And Anna, you would like to know if we get Hammerkops here on Djuma. Yes, we certainly do. They are very widely spread through Africa, and just about everywhere that I've ever been to in Africa, I think there have been Hammerkops. So they're quite adaptable. They do like water and water courses, so the more dams or lakes or rivers there are, the more Hammerkops there will be. But yeah, they're very widespread, great hunters. They do most of their hunting in water, but it can be in tiny little puddles, even puddles in and along a road. They don't need huge stretches of water, and they're not too fussy. So be it whether it's frogs or fish or snakes or lizards, they'll feed on just about anything they can overpower. I haven't, but that's not to say that they don't, and I'm almost certain that they will feed on termites, which is one of the most nutritious of all the insects and also plentiful of all the insects that a lot of birds like to cash in on. Yeah, but I wonder when, yeah, why aren't we seeing more Hammerkops on Djuma? You'll probably find that they're around, we just haven't been putting them on camera. Okie dokie, well, the rain is beginning to fall again, and it seems like Noelle is now busy trying to evade it again, so why don't you go and see exactly how she's getting along.
I am doing okay at this moment, Scott, evading the storm. We're just keeping an eye on things. We're making our way towards Sydney's Dam, which is in our northwestern corner. So we were just in our northeastern corner, now we're going to our northwestern corner. A couple reasons why I'm doing this. It's nice to check the boundaries every now and then to see what's moving across from Biffleshoek on our right into Vuyatela/Djuma on our left-hand side. Also, it's one of this area where we're driving. It makes it easier for me and Ferg to spot sort of what's happening with the weather all around us. And it's also a smooth ride as we carry through. Now, the Nkuhumas this morning moved out of Biffleshoek and came into Vuyatela, and Scott was busy tracking them hectically this morning and could hear the whole pride roaring, going, ooh, ooh, ooh. But unfortunately, it looks like they might have moved over our southwestern corner, over our boundary there. But that doesn't mean that they won't be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last installment of our binge series show, and we've been doing so well. We just need some lions to pop up on Djuma for us to show everybody. And it would be nice if it's the Nkuhumas. We like the Nkuhumas very much. And for anyone that's new with us, Nkuhumas is a pride of lions. There's 5 adult lionesses, and I believe there's one 3-month-old little cub, and then there's maybe 5 or 6 sub-adult/juveniles, and they're amazing. They have some really great techniques for taking down buffalo. I had a really great sighting with them a couple of months ago where a couple of the juveniles got a tortoise, and this one female juvenile was just really chomping away on this tortoise. And it's the first time I've ever actually seen a lion get into a tortoise shell and eat it. It was a younger tortoise, but it was amazing, and she was doing her best to keep it away from her siblings and cousins. Now, the name Nkuhuma is the name in our local language here, Shangaan. It means a brown ivory tree because they were first found under a brown ivory tree. If you mispronounce it and you say Kuhuma, it means you're standing in a doorway ready to go out. Joel, you'd like to know how we're holding up under the mat. We tried to scare Scott. Epitomizes how we're all feeling. We have been working really hard and trying to get the best shows out as possible, and I hope you all have been enjoying them. But I think all of us are, I wouldn't say jittery, but we're sort of amped for tomorrow. It's our last show, and then of course, we're all getting a little bit of the crazies, and and doing funny things like scaring each other and laughing and maybe partaking in some apple juice. I think it will depend. But tomorrow is going to be, it's going to be good. We've had some good rehearsals. We've been really ramping up. It's been really nice. We've had some extra people in camp going over notes with us, and it's been a good week. It's been a hard working week, but it's been a good week, and I think all of us are holding up well. I know Scott and I had trouble the other day trying to remember how to speak English properly, but that happens from time to time. I think we're doing good, and I hope all of you are enjoying the TV shows and what we're putting out. They're slightly different to our YouTube shows, but they're still different and fun. All right, now Scott has one of the most beautiful antelope species you can find out here, so let's head on over to him so that he can maybe tell you a tidbit or two.
Well, I think Noel was referring to the kind of orangey brown antelope to the right of that large wildebeest, because I don't think wildebeest are very pretty, but I definitely agree that the impala are. Wonderful stuff. It's a slightly rainy afternoon here in South Africa, and it's a great pleasure to welcome all the kids at Garrisonville Elementary in Virginia, as well as a whole bunch of teachers who are joining us at a conference in Texas. My name's Scott, and I'm teamed up with Dave on camera. Please send through as many questions as possible, and we will get to you guys as quickly as we can. Now, it's a whole herd of impala with this lone bull wildebeest, and a lot of you may be wondering, is this wildebeest confused? Why is it hanging out with these different animals? And he's doing it because he's clever. He hasn't been lucky enough to get a family of his own yet, which means that it's quite dangerous for him to move around alone, because there are lion and leopard in this area that would like to eat him. If he was alone, he would only be able to rely on his eyes and his ears, but now he's got safety in numbers. So all these impala, who are very good at detecting animals like lion and leopard and cheetah, are going to help him. So it's a good example of teamwork. They're not really competing too much with one another. There's enough food to go around, and they know full well that this is a far safer scenario to be in than moving through the bush alone. Now, it's the afternoon here in South Africa. It is coming on 5 p.m. and we were out early this morning in this very same area, and there was actually a pride of lions, a pride of about 10 lions that moved past here, and obviously the lions didn't manage to catch any of these guys because we would have found the remains. So a good example of how their teamwork helped them to avoid being caught by a lion. Now, sadly, those lions have moved a very long way away from us, and we're not actually too sure where they are, so we're not necessarily going to be able to show you any lions this afternoon, unless we get surprised, which sometimes we do on safari. But we are hoping to try and find you a leopard. There's some tracks of a male leopard not too far from here, and with a little bit of luck we'll be able to find him. It is important to know, though, that this area is very, very big, and it's about 200 miles long. So if you jumped into a car with your parents and drove for about 3 hours, that's how long the reserve is, and that gives you an idea of how much space the animals have to roam. It's not a zoo, and all of the animals can go wherever they like. Good, let's try and get you a little bit closer to them. Now, like I said, I'm going to get very, very lonely here with just Dave on the camera and me driving around if you guys don't send me any questions. So please, anything that comes to mind, let your teacher know, and they will let us know, and then we can start chatting with you guys. And that is one of the joys of being on these live safaris. It's not pre-recorded. It's happening right here, right now, and the more we can chat with one another, the more we begin to understand what's going on out here, and you can even tell me what animals you'd like me to look for. No guarantees that I'll be able to find them, but I can definitely try my best. So, you'll notice that all of these impala don't have horns, and that's because they are ladies. And like a lot of the deer that you get in America, Most of the ladies don't have horns, but you do get some females that will have horns, like the wildebeest, for example, that other animal that we're looking at here with the impala. Those ones, the females will have horns. It can be a little bit confusing. And there is also a male impala a little bit more off to the right that hopefully we'll be able to show you. There he is there. So that's what a male looks like. He's got lots of girlfriends that he has to keep an eye out for. Eliza, you'd like to know what do wildebeest eat? And let's take a close look and just keep watching him. And what animal do you think he looks like, Eliza? I think he looks quite a lot like a cow. So, and you know what cows eat. Cows like to eat grass, and it looks like so does he. So a lot of the antelope in this area will eat grass. Some will also like to eat the leaves of trees and bushes, and some will eat both. So it does depend. Some animals are more fussy than others. The impala, for example, they can eat just about any plant. So they eat grass, leaves, twigs, whereas the wildebeest are a little bit more fussy and they like fresh green grass, which you can see him gobbling up now. Lucky, this is our rainy season, so the grass is as green as it will ever get. Our winters are dry, so this is a good time of year to be an animal that likes eating plants. Wonderful. Let's see if we can try and find you any sign of a leopard. Like I said a little bit earlier, we did have some tracks of a leopard a bit earlier, and we are hoping to track him down. And while we do that, we're going to send you across to one of the other guides who's driving around, who's from the same country as you, and her name is Noelle.
It's true, I was born in the States. I've lived in Africa for about 12 to 15 years now, and I just want to show you the funniness that we have on a day like today. We have the sun about to set in the west. It's still about an hour or so away from setting. And then as we come across, a bit of blue, and then, oh my goodness gracious, it is our storm that we have been trying to outrun, but it has caught up with us. So we are going to meander home quickly, put our roof, and then be back out. My name is Noelle, and I originally grew up in New Hampshire, and now I do this. I've been doing this for over a decade as a field guide. I've got Ferg on camera, and Ferg, you've been doing wildlife filmmaking for 15 years. 15 years Ferg's been doing jobs similar to this in many different places across Africa. So we have 25 years experience out here in the bush, maybe 26 if we add in a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And we love what we do, and we always love what we do. Brody, excellent question, my friend. And don't forget, Brody and everyone else is listening, we love questions, so you got to send them through. Send them through hashtag Safari Live. Okay, so Brody, what are rhinos' horns made out of? Brody, can you see my plait, my long braid here? This is hair. Your hair is made out of keratin, the same as your... Are my fingernails dirty? They are. This one's not so bad. Sorry, I've been in the bush. That's my fingernail there. There we go. My thumb. And that is also made out of keratin, and that is what a rhino's horn is made out of. It's a type of keratin, and it's woven together, and then grown into the sort of horn shape, sort of a spiral like this, and it's used ceremonial dagger handles in parts of the Middle East and medicines in Asian countries, and it's been used for a very long time now. I seem to have hit a little signal patch. It happens, so let's head on over to Scotty D, and we'll see you shortly.
I'm sure Noelle will get back into a better signal area later, but I'm glad you did get to meet her briefly, and hopefully it won't take her long to get her roof on and then be back in action. It's really good weather this for the animals, not only because it's providing the herbivores with some fresh green grass, but it's also nice and cool, and usually at this time of the day it'll still be very hot, up to kind of 90 or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm loving this cool weather, even though the rain does make it a little bit tricky for us. Lucy, you would like to know, what do the pythons do all day? Well, most snakes don't move too much. They kind of relax quite a lot, And they do that because they want to save energy. So once they've had a big meal, you'll tend to find that they kind of just curl up in a hole, or in a you know, whether it's in the ground or in a cavity in a tree. There's lots of places where they can just relax. A lot of pythons also like to relax in swampy areas that are quite wet, with just their nose and their eyes sticking out. But even though we do get pythons here and a whole bunch of other snakes, we very, very rarely see them. They like to hide from us, and I love snakes, but like I said, we don't see them too often. In the last few months, I've only seen one snake, and it's a snake called a black mamba, which is very... don't have any venom, so if they bite you, you won't have any problems. So there's no venom coming out of their fangs, whereas the black mamba has some of the most dangerous venom out of all the snakes in the world. And if a black mamba bites you, you need to get to hospital as quickly as possible, otherwise you may not make it. And what happened was, we were driving around just like this, hoping to find something, and then we stopped and we could hear some birds. Tweet, 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 a whole bunch of birds tweeting and flying around in some bushes. And we thought, what's going on here? Because you could tell that they weren't happy. They had detected a predator. If we see something we don't like, sometimes all of us start screaming, saying, hey, there's a thief, or hey, look at him. And the birds will do the same thing. So we drove in there and we weren't sure whether it was a leopard or a snake or a mongoose. So many different predators out here that the neighborhood watch will shout at. And we saw a mongoose. So I thought, oh, well, it was the mongoose. Maybe it was trying to steal some of the birds' eggs, or we weren't sure what, but I thought it was the mongoose that they were shouting at. And then I was teamed up with Dave on camera that same day too, and Dave spotted a small little hare that had been killed, like a little bunny rabbit, and it was just lying there dead. And the mongoose hid under a bush, and then all of a sudden the mongoose ran off and bit something, and as soon as it bit something, I realized it was a ginormous black mamba, and it went slithering up a tree, and the mongoose chased it up a tree, and then the mongoose went back to the hare, the bunny that the snake had actually caught and killed, but the mongoose was trying to steal it. And then what happened after that was that the snake came back, and it actually managed to chase the mongoose away and get its food back. So that was a very fun sighting that we had, but it's not very often that we get to see snakes, sadly. Ah, Brady, you would like to know, what does a snake's skin feel like? It's very smooth. Depending on the size of the snake, its scales will be bigger or smaller. Obviously, the bigger the snake, the bigger the scales. And it feels almost like smooth plastic, but each scale is its own individual piece, so you can feel the little lumps and grooves of each track, of each piece of... Oh, a traffic jam in the bush. We'll just let these guys head on ahead of us. We'll let them carry on, and they are expert trackers. You'll actually see there's a seat on the front of the vehicle there, and that's where one of them's supposed to be sitting. I'm not too sure why he isn't. But isn't that interesting that we've got seats on the hoods of the vehicles in Africa? And that's when the trackers are sitting up here. Oh, my earpiece got tangled there. So they like to sit up here, and then they can keep a close eye on the road for any footprints of the lion or the leopard, and then if they see any tracks, they hop off, and then they can have a closer look to see if they're fresh or not. And if they are fresh, they'll head off into the bush, following the trail with the radio and a rifle, and sneak on through looking for the footprints until eventually, if they're really good, they'll be able to find that animal. It's something that I really love doing. It's like a treasure hunt, but a bit of a dangerous one. So yeah, snake skin is smooth. One thing that always interests me by snakes is how powerful they are. They're very, very strong animals, so even if they aren't very big, if you do ever hold one, I bet you'll be very surprised at how strong their muscles are. Okie dokie. Cindy, you'd like to know if animals like the impala and the wildebeest and other antelope ever have a reason to not get along. And yes, it's not common, but when life is very difficult, if there's a drought and there's not enough water, or if there's not much food, just like with us as humans, you'll tend to find all of us getting a little bit, not greedy, but you just start trying to look after yourself and your family. And when there's less water around, then some animals may start chasing other animals away from the little water holes. So a lot of the time, you know, humans will act the same as animals. So when there's a lot of food and if everyone has lots of money, then nobody will fight over it. But it's when there's not lots around that even humans will also start acting in a nasty way to one another. Not that we should, but that tends to be what happens. And a lot of the time you can relate how we behave, because we are animals just like them. We're a little bit different, but you know, you can relate our behavior to wild animals' behavior. Whew, the rain's getting a little bit harder here. So Dave has to wipe the screen of the camera every now and then. Okay, I'm going to try and turn this way because the wind is blowing the rain into us, and if we face the other way, oh, it's not really helping, the wind's swirling around. Okay, well, we're not having much luck here, even though our roof is on. Noelle's also got her roof on, and hopefully she's in a better situation than we are.
Hi everyone, I've put my roof on and we're just busy turning our back towards the rain so it doesn't blow in and blow onto the camera. So I'm just going to, oh, that was not a good turn, Noelle. I'm going to turn this way and face here, and then hopefully we'll get a little bit of a view. Now in a downpour like this, animals are going to go and hide under the bushes. They don't like getting super wet. Elephants will sometimes stay out in this, and rhinos will sometimes stay out, and buffalo. But animals like impala that are eaten by predators like lion and leopard, and kudu, which is another antelope that's also eaten by things like lion and leopard and wild dog, they will go and hide because they can't hear or smell properly. Also, our cats tend not to like weather like this. Here where we are, in the Masai Mara in Kenya, where we also broadcast our show from, the cats there behave a little bit different, and they will actually hunt in this type of weather. For us here, because there's thicker bush and the habitat is different, then they have a tendency to sort of hunker down. I've not had enough rain this year, so this is good. This is making me happy. Ooh, Michelle, what does a leopard scream sound like? So, Michelle, leopards don't scream, but what they will do is they'll growl, like, rawr, but that was a very bad leopard growl. Or when they're marking their territory with their voice, they make a ha, 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 like a saw going over wood. I can do a lion call much better. A lion, when he marks his territory with his voice, he goes, ooh, 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 ooh. So not really screams there, but deep guttural noises as well. An elephant will scream. That I'm not very good at. Ferg, can you do an elephant scream? No, that sounded like a woodland kingfisher. I don't know. Baby elephants especially will scream. This is a heavy downpour. So, kiddos, we need rain. We need rain badly. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be hard for us to see wildlife where we are, but this is making me so happy. The ground, the grass, the soil, the trees, the animals, everything needs this rain right now. And it's also nice looking at the sun almost setting and having this rain. Oh, it's getting a little bit of a gusty wind here. Our storm has finally caught up with us, and it is about to hammer us quite hard. I think maybe let's go to Scott. Apparently it's not as bad where he is.
Yep. Well, we've just stopped the vehicle because driving around doesn't help. the rain kind of blows into the car. So we're okay for now, just stationed, and we thought we'd show you one of the long antenna poles that somehow manages to help send our picture into that funny white pole that we can see there, all the way to you guys in America, many thousands of miles away. And we've got lots of very, very clever people in our team who somehow managed to kit out these vehicles with lots of different computers and funny bits of technology. I don't even know what half the stuff's even called. But the bottom line is we must remember that it's quite fascinating what's happening. And there are some, like I said, very, very clever people in our team and on this planet that make moments like this possible. I know when I was growing up there was no such thing like this, and I'm quite jealous because I would have loved to go on live safaris while I was at school. Now the rain that was hitting Noel has reached us. So let me just turn the vehicle a little bit more so we are facing our back end into the rain. Sarah, you would like to know what scat is on the road up ahead of us, and it actually wasn't scat. It looks like a small tree stump on the road, and this is a new road that's just been built in this area, so that is why there's still a tree stump on it. But it looks quite a lot like buffalo poop. So it could have, you know, if it was poop, it could have been buffalo. A little bit too small for elephant. Elephants have got quite large, roundish balls of poop. And it's very important that we know what all the different animals' poop looks like, because it helps us to find them. If we come across any very fresh poop, then we know that we could find a buffalo or an elephant. And especially when we're on foot tracking the animals, it can be a little bit animals nearby, definitely helps us. So it's not just knowing about the animals themselves and what they look like, but also about the different trees and bushes and birds and poop and all the little different things that we can see out here are very important for us to understand, because if we know about everything here, it becomes a lot easier for us to find animals and also to make sure that we are safe. So, these are not good conditions for a safari, everyone. If you were all here, it would be a lot easier. We would just put some raincoats on you and we would go, and it doesn't matter. Humans can get wet without breaking, but we've got lots of equipment on this vehicle that can't get wet, otherwise it will break. And we are about to do our final TV show to National Geographic Channel tomorrow morning. So if I break any equipment, I'll be in big, big trouble with my boss. So we're not going to take any chances. Okay, well, it sounds like Noelle's got her covers down, and we're going to send you across to her and probably do the same thing on our vehicle.
We do have our covers down. Now, you all were asking about leopards earlier. This is a marula tree, and Ferg is showing you a nice little fork where a leopard would climb up and then onto the branch there. And leopards have a tendency to like to put their kills, after they've made them, up into a tree. They don't do it all the time. Sometimes they just put it under a bush. But this would be a good example of the type of tree you would find a leopard in. Now, unfortunately, there's no leopard in this tree now, but at some point there could be. Sarah, you're curious to know what made me interested in becoming a guide. Sarah, it was actually a happy accident. So I went to university for anthropology, which is the study of people, and I did that in Montana. And then when I graduated, I wanted to see something else other than the United States, and so I moved to Tanzania, and I was working there for a while and found out about African wildlife, and I enjoyed it very much. And when I was a kid, when I was growing up, when I was your age, I was not allowed to watch TV or play indoors unless the weather was really bad. We had to be outside all the time, and I've kept that growing up as an adult. I love being outside. And after I was in Tanzania for a while, I decided I didn't want to leave Africa. I wanted to stay, and I moved down to South Africa, and I started doing research. So research with lions and leopards, elephants, rhino, African wild dog. and through that found out about guiding. And I did my guide training, and then 10 years later I'm still doing it, and I love it. I get to be outside every day. I'm outside for about 6 to 8 hours a day, sometimes more, and nothing is ever the same. No day, no game drive. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And I have a bit of ADD, so it helps me it helps keep me on track, because the bush has a lot of ADD. There's always something going on. Ooh, Michael, good question. You're asking what does a cheetah feel like? So cheetahs are endangered. There's only 7,000 left in the wild in sub-Saharan Africa. And I was lucky to be part of a cheetah reintroduction many years ago. And we moved cheetahs from a place where they had been bred in captivity, which isn't always the best. And it helps sometimes with getting them back into places where they should be. And we got to move them. It feels like if your parents have a rug that's not very flat, but that is thick, it feels a bit like that, but slightly softer. They're not very soft at all. It's pretty amazing. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry that this rain has put a damper on our ability to see the animals, but I hope you join us again. And don't forget, tomorrow we have our TV show live at 10 p.m. Eastern in the United States on Nat Geo Wild. We'll be playing Safari Bingo, and someone can win a trip for 2 to Africa. And we will be on the YouTube tomorrow afternoon, so maybe we will see you then. Thank you so much from our teams in the Mara who are spending the night out, and from myself and Scott and Ferg and Davi and everyone in FC. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow morning.